Hello and welcome to another Stogie Review video review. I am Walt White here with a first impression cigar review of a stick that I'm not really familiar with. A couple of weeks back I received an email from Sosa Cigars asking if I was interested in trying some of their product, and I took them up on the offer. They sent me a couple of samples and I got one of each of their lines. And you know, when I opened up that package and I started looking at the different cigars that they sent, I believe they sent 4 or 5, maybe 6 cigars. The one that really caught my eye was the Underground. Now, this is a double perfecto. It's got a torpedo head, and it's got what appears to be an enclosed foot. I mean, there's just a tiny little bit of tobacco exposed at the foot. I can see just a little bit of the filler, but I don't know if it's supposed to be that way or if there's just a little bit of a crack, because there's like an applied tobacco on the foot and at the cap, which is a different color, kind of a contrast thing, and that's kind of what grabbed my attention, this contrasting tobacco. I thought, oh, you know, it looks kind of cool, it's different. You know, there are a handful of companies that do something similar to this. The General Cigars Artesano line has a two-tone wrapper. You know, you've got like the Padilla Burberry Perfecto. I mean, it's got like different color tobaccos all over it, but you know, those are two examples where I think it's sort of like an applied tobacco. Some of it is for flavor, some of it is just for appearance. In the case of the Burberry Perfecto, it's obviously a visual thing, and I'm not quite sure what the objective is here. You're really not going to taste the tobacco down at the cap. However, the start of the cigar is definitely going to be different with this tobacco down at the foot, so that's kind of interesting. But looking this over, it's a bit rough. The tobacco applied to the foot is lifting a little bit. Again, looking at the foot, which may or may not be intentionally enclosed, I don't know whether that was done on purpose or if there's supposed to be some filler tobacco exposed or not. There's just there's one massive vein on one side of the cigar. It protrudes quite a bit. It's really sharp. If you roll your finger over the cigar, you can really feel it. It spirals all the way down the stick. It just protrudes a lot. I really wish that was flattened or not there. It's actually protruding enough that if you were to sit this down on an unlevel surface and the cigar started rolling off the table, when it hit that vein, it would stop. So I mean, it's protruding a bit. So as far as the details go on this, I looked it up really quick on the Sosa Cigars website, and the copy says, each cigar is handmade in Little Havana, Florida. Sosa Underground is a full-bodied cigar and made with a Nicaraguan Habano wrapper. The cigars are packaged in boxes of 20 with a logo designed by a local Miami tattoo artist, created solely for the Sosa family, and available in 3 sizes. Those 3 sizes are the Arcane, the Delphic, both of which are a Perfecto. The Arcane is a 41 by 4 3/4. The Delphic is a 41 by 5 1/2. Not really sure which one this is. I'm thinking it may be the Arcane, but I don't have a tape measure handy to determine whether this is 4 3/4 or 5 1/2. And there's a Dar, which is a Robusto. So, as I said earlier, I'm not really familiar with the Underground line, and my experience with Sosa cigars in general is kind of lacking. It's been a few years since I've even had one, and I haven't even seen one in probably just as long. Several years ago, I used to live about 30 minutes east of where I live in the Reading area now, and on Fridays I used to get done work early around noon, and I would head down to the cigar shop down in Exton, which was JM, I believe it was JM Tobacco, in the Marchwood Shopping Center. And it was before I was introduced to Kensington Cigars, so I was taking a long drive, probably 45 minutes, just to get to the cigar shop to hang out for 10-15 minutes, just browse the humidor. I never really got that welcome vibe when I was hanging out there, so it was one of those shops where I just kind of walked in, grabbed a handful of stuff, and took off. and they were the only person that I've seen in a long time that carried Sosa product. And it was just the, I don't remember what line it was. I'm guessing it's sort of the baseline Sosa product. And I would pick them up from time to time. And, you know, I thought they were a good cigar for the money. But when I stopped going to that shop, I hadn't seen them since. So when I got the email from Sosa asking if I wanted to try the cigars, I was kind of excited, you know, to try the cigar. I was really interested in seeing how what I remembered, or how, you know, current product compared to what I remembered. And as it turned out, there's much more to the Sosa lineup than what I was exposed to, you know, several years ago, you know, with just that one line. And now, you know, I've got, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 6 to explore. So it's pretty interesting. But I've got my cigar lit. It's not producing a whole lot of smoke. I have a feeling that I should have clipped the foot of the cigar to expose a bit more filler tobacco. But I'll be back in, well, for you it'll be just a second. For me, it'll probably be a good 15-20 minutes until I get into this cigar a little bit, and then we'll talk a bit more. Alright, well, the first third is kind of hitting its stride, and I thought I'd turn the camera back on and talk about it a little bit. So when I initially lit up the cigar, I was having some difficulty with the draw. It was a bit stiff, and I think it had everything to do with that sort of tobacco applique on the foot. It really didn't take much to burn through, and I was able to get some smoke through the cigar. But it's been kind of stiff ever since. I mean, it was tight with that tobacco on the foot, and now that it's gone and I'm well past it, it's getting better, but it's still a little stiff. And I think a lot of that has to do with the shape of the cigar. Now, when I started smoking cigars, I used to really enjoy torpedo shapes. It was one of my favorite shapes. You know, I thought it was interesting. It concentrated the smoke. It was, you know, it was a really nice cigar to smoke, I thought. And you know, the more cigars that I smoke, I find that my preference leans more towards straight-walled stuff like Parejos, Robustos, Coronas, Torjos, Churchills. You know, anything that's just a straight-up, straight shape is what I prefer. There's usually less restriction on the smoke volume, and I've come to a point where I really appreciate cigars that are a little on the loose side in terms of draw. I like being able to determine how fast I'm going to smoke the cigar and not have the cigar determine that for me, if that kind of makes any sense. You know, if the cigar is a little on the too loose side, I can just smoke a little bit slower, be a little more gentler with my puffs, and everything will be fine. If the cigar is a little on the tight side, I find myself really yanking on it or really pulling on it to try to get any smoke volume through it, and I enjoy it less. This one is kind of middle of the road. If I'm nice and gentle on it, I get a good solid puff of smoke. It's nice and dense, coats the palate well, and there's just plenty of smoke. I find that if I pull on it just a little bit too hard, I don't know whether you get some expansion from the heat or what exactly is going on in the cigar. Maybe the channels are being vacuum crushed as I'm pulling air through it. Maybe the cigar is sort of closing in on itself, and that's why the draw gets really stiff. But I find that if I kind of go easy on it, the cigar, you know, treats me well. It provides provides plenty of smoke. The flavor profile is pretty interesting. It's got sort of a smoky, sweet, kind of a caramelly kind of flavor, and I'm really enjoying it. On the back end, there's a little bit of spice, maybe a little bit of a sort of a woody flavor, like an aftertaste. All in all, it's really interesting. It's gentle on the palate, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I mean, more often than not these days, you're seeing a lot of cigar companies that are coming out with full-bodied cigars for the sake of being full-bodied cigars. It seems like everyone's sort of falling all over themselves to generate the new cigar in the niche market for these ultra full-bodied sticks. When I saw that this was advertised as full-bodied, I was a little concerned because I didn't know where they were going to go with it, or I didn't know where the cigar fell. And you know, I'm really appreciating that it's full-bodied without being over the top, and it's nice and gentle on the palate. When I'm finished the cigar, I really don't expect to be all kind of beat up on the palate and weary and just kind of ready to be done with cigars for the evening. So it's interesting. It's got some finesse to it. it's full-bodied without being over the top. All in all, this thing is a winner at this point. So I'm really enjoying it. It's burning well. It's got a nice thin burn line. It's even. The ash is holding on. It's not making a mess. You know, this cigar is just kind of a winner at this point. I've got a lot more cigar to smoke yet, but so far it's doing really, really well, and at this early stage I am definitely impressed. Well, I've gotten to about the final third of my Sosa Underground. It's about time to wrap up this review, this first impressions review. And I've got to say, you know, I've been really impressed with this cigar. I was going into this not really knowing what to expect. With very limited experience with the Sosa line, I really didn't know whether to expect, you know, something mediocre, you know, something stellar, you know, diamond in the rough kind of a thing. And this cigar really exceeded my expectations. It's got a really nice, bold flavor profile. It's full-bodied without being over the top. It's fairly easy on the palate. It's got a nice, smooth finish. I don't feel beat up or weary as the cigar grows shorter. The smoke is getting a little bit hotter, but if I smoke just a little bit slower, you know, it counteracts that bitterness of smoking a hot cigar too fast. And all in all, it's just a winner as far as I'm concerned. I really don't know what the price is on this. I did a couple of really quick searches, and you know, the prices seem to be all over the place depending on the internet retailer I found them at. But you know, as long as this thing is, you know, under about $8 a piece, I would say this is definitely a winner. You know, good bang for the buck. Flavor profile is more or less the same. It's got a really nice woody, or not like a smoky kind of a sweetness to it. There is I really don't know how to describe the aftertaste. It's kind of woody, kind of charred, kind of a thing going on. There's just a little bit of bitterness, but it all really works well together. The aftertaste is really interesting. It lingers, you know, not too long, but you know, when it fades off the palate, you're left really clean and refreshed and you know, ready for that next puff. It's burned beautifully. It's got a nice thin burn line. The ash is nice and solid, light colored. It holds on really well. I have had to touch it up a little bit here and there. If you let it sit just a little bit too long, it tends to go out. You know, a quick touch up with the lighter and you're right back to business. It's just a good, solid cigar, and I'm just genuinely impressed with it. Definitely a winner in my book. So those are my first impression thoughts of the Sosa Underground, and I would definitely suggest picking them up if you have the opportunity, or suggest giving one a try if you have the opportunity. So until next time, happy smoking, and I will catch you later.